to Slated for More. Today we are going to get into social media management at the entry level, and I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Claudia Yao Jaramaro, and I'm with ABNC Bilingual Resources, LLC.
Okay. And I'm Natalie Lash. I'm with Insight Social Media Consulting.
All right, so Claudia, how long have you been doing social media management professionally?
Professionally, I've been doing it about over a year ago.
Okay. And Natalie?
I'm at about 4 months.
Okay. So we're talking, just a year ago, you were just starting out. You probably had personal use. Mm-hmm. But other than that, so what have you found is the lifestyle to expect for a social media manager?
I will say we have to be willing to learn new things every time. Like, although I've been doing it for a year, I think I'm at this point right now where I'm just learning about new applications and new things that can make my job a little bit easier or more effective. Right. So just be willing to learn something new every day. I think that's one part of it. It is busy because you always want to be learning. As you learn new things, you want to implement, you want to bring effective communication. So I believe like my lifestyle now is like has made me more aware of things around me, mm-hmm. and like with like a wider vision.
Do you think that being on social media professionally has taken away some of the joy of doing it personally?
Yeah. Definitely, I do think so. I don't think I'm on my personal Facebook as much as I used to.
I have the same experience. Yeah. What about you, lifestyle-wise? Like, is it a good work-life balance, or?
So far, yes. So I don't have that many clients yet. I'm kind of easing into it. I would say the exact same thing. Like, you have to be prepared to keep learning. Mm-hmm. Like, I just graduated college in May, and mm-hmm. if you've just graduated college, be ready to still feel like you're in college and go online and take courses and learn from people around you and network a lot.
Right.
And then I think you also just really have to be flexible. So that's kind of where the work-life balance is sometimes really good and sometimes really bad, because it can be like, hey, this client needs you to do a live and you already had plans with someone, but like you're going to go do the live because you're flexible.
Right. Exactly. Okay. And so what is a day in the life of a social media manager like? Like, what are the first things you have to do in the morning?
I think you become like this nerd about numbers that I was just asking you about some questions that I still have, being a newbie on this. But definitely numbers are very important for you and for us. And when I say numbers, I'm not talking about money, which also is important, but I'm talking about stats and how it's, it kind of becomes part of your own, even if they're not your pages, they're your clients' pages, but it's like you feel so compelled to really get them to the point, just like it's your business, right?
Right.
So I think like first thing in the morning, let's see how things are working. Let's see if there's some messages. And again, more like kind of like what people or we usually do when on our Facebook page, like, oh, let's see who like my picture, Right. But now it's not personal anymore. Now it's like, let's see how many responses. Let's see what worked, what didn't work.
Right.
So like. And then again, first is like checking how things are going, like kind of doing your own self-assessment on what worked, what didn't work, and then if something didn't work, then start checking and see what. So I think it just is like a snowball that you start in the morning with stats, and then it just keeps building and building and building.
Right.
And I'm talking about one client, but this can happen with whichever number of clients you have.
Right. What about you? What's your day in the life like?
So mine's still, like I said, very flexible. And I have fewer clients, I feel like, than most people, because I am just starting. So normally it's making sure I don't have a text message from a client at 7:15 in the morning, like right as I was waking up. So it's like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, yes, okay. And I like bring the laptop out, and I'm like, all right, did it.
Right.
And then also just, it's kind of different. So every day I think I'm still playing with my scheduling. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my life right now is like, oh, do Tuesdays work best to be my like sit down, plan content and like have a coffee day? Or is it Wednesdays that are going to be more productive because I do kind of do other things in the same company I'm with.
Right.
So it's kind of, I'm still figuring out my day-to-day, more
Right.
so like weekly schedule.
Do you find yourself more sitting at a desk working or more out and about?
In my case, I do a lot of networking. I meet with clients a lot, and part of our agreements is like I like to check with them. Like if we get like, let's say, 6-month contracts or agreements, I would like to sit at least once a month with them and see how they're feeling. Where do you want to go next, or whatever. So I found myself a lot meeting with clients and talking to people too.
I'm a lot of coffee shops and office work.
Okay.
And often from my bed too. Like
So-
before I go to sleep.
One thing that I struggle with is because there are so many being out there meeting with the client is finding that time to sit down and actually do the work.
Yeah.
So do you find that an issue as well?
I do actually. I think a lot of the work I do it's even outside the normal office hours. Like you said, we have to be very flexible. Well, where I find myself like some weeks where basically the whole week I have meetings during let's say the office hours, and then I'm finding myself doing posts at night or scheduling posts like hours that I supposed to be rested at home with my family.
Right. And I think that's important. I think when you're just starting out into a career, you want to know, like, what is the lifestyle going to be like? Am I going to have time for my family? And I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I started doing social media management myself, was that I wanted to make my life more about my life and less about my career, and spend time with my family and doing things that I loved. And it has allowed me to do that. But there are definitely times, especially when first starting up, that I had to sacrifice a lot of evenings to get there.
Yeah.
So, what motivated you to start a career in this field?
In my case, well, I already had, like you said, previous experience with my own social media. I created before some. Of course, I had like my Facebook, my Instagram, and then I created some Facebook pages. And in my case, it's definitely the need of communication to the Latino community. So I don't think nobody's doing that in Spanish, and I have been very successful with my own pages, personal pages, that I would like to offer that to other people who really want to reach out to the Latino community. I believe, not because I actually, started this because I do believe that that's number one engagement or communication tool right now to reach out to other cultures or other communities. It's not like I want to make it to be, but I think that's, for my experience on doing it on personal pages, I think that's the best way to go. And that's why I decided to start. I'm like, I want to help other people. I get a lot with my interpreting and translation services. I get a lot of the people ask me this question, like, how do we get to the Latino community? How do we get, I have bilingual, some people have bilingual employees already, some don't, but they want to reach to them. To me, right now, at this point, I think social media is the best way to get to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my motivation's kind of different. I'm just a super creative person, and I get really bored if I'm not doing anything creative, like at least once during the day. So who I work with, Chrissy, who you've already interviewed, kind of saw that in me and was like, hey, we're going to do this together. And I was like, okay, Chrissy. So it was kind of a mix between
So you kind of got dragged into it.
Yeah, it was a mix between me expressing that I wanted to do things that were more creative and Chrissy going, okay, so let's do it.
Right.
Because Chrissy had already been doing it, and she's like, I feel like you'd be good at this. So it was a mix between that and kind of you and Chrissy being like, well, then do it. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah. So what keeps you going? Like, now that you've started, what do you like about it?
I like being able to just like sit and have brainstorming sessions. Like that's kind of like a weird thing that keeps me going, but like sitting down with pen and paper and just like writing out a bunch of ideas all at once, I'm like, oh, I still have ideas. Like, yay me, I'm not burning out yet. And then like sitting and getting like a text message from a client, like one of my favorite ones was just like, you period are period amazing period, and I was just like, like I'm so happy you think that.
I think that's a great motivation is when your clients are so thankful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that what keeps you motivated?
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna go back to the numbers. But when people tell me, "Oh, because of your post, 2 Latinos came in," I mean, I guess with me that's kind of like a lot easier to manage or know, because if they've never seen a Latino coming into them and they tell me, "Oh, because of this post, I was able to help this person," or I was able. So to me, that's a great motivation, to know that I'm connected.
It's like a really good, like, tangible motivation, too. Like, you know exactly the reason they're coming in.
Right. Okay, so the name of your business, can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with that?
Yeah. So I invited, like I said, we started first just thinking on interpreting and translation services. So I invited 2 of my sisters, and we were the founders of the business. And our names are Angie, Brenda, and Claudia. So it was A, B, and C. A lot of people were like, "Oh, I didn't see, so you can be number 1." I'm like, I never even thought about it. I would probably start something with Z, and I didn't even thought about being number 1 on the phone book or on whatever. Directory or whatever. And I'm like, no, I never thought about that, but I think it worked.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and I guess, you weren't really the one to come up with your business name. Do you do any personal branding at all?
Personally, not so much, but I do like the fact that it's called Insights. Like, it's kind of, seems kind of like perfect for social media stuff.
Right.
But it was already Insights with HR things that Mike was doing, and I'm still doing some of that stuff. And then Chrissy was kind of like, okay, let's just keep the name for social media. And we're like on the Insights tab on Facebook, and we're like, it was perfect.
Okay, so what is your most common way to bring in new clients?
I will say networking. Going to different events. I'm a very curious person. So I guess experimenting. Like I told you, I've been managing social media like for about a year. I can tell you this whole year I've been going to just different events. Wherever I can go, I'll go. But I think at this point now, I'm recognizing which ones are really bringing me more clients and getting me more motivated. Part of those networking events is what can we bring and what can we take with us. So I'm at this point, I'm kind of already identified some of the networking spaces that help me the most and that I know that I can also provide more.
Mm-hmm. But when you were first looking for networking events, did you Google search it or look it up on Facebook events, or did somebody tell you about events? How did you first hear about it?
I think it was a mix of everything. Like, for example, getting into the space where my office is right now, it was a friend who told me, "Oh, this is happening." So speaking about your ideas is pretty cool, because then you'll find sometimes you don't want to speak about it because you're not confident or because you're afraid that they're going to steal your idea or a lot of reasons that you don't want to share it. But I noticed that when I start sharing things, a lot of doors open for me, like people telling me, or even, just me being curious on Facebook, how after, how that works, that after a little bit, then you start, like I was last year seeing all Wichita events. Oh, I'm gonna go to this one. Oh, I'm gonna go to that one. So because I was just more experimenting, and checking and going everywhere. And people were telling me I see you everywhere. I'm like, yeah, now I can as much as I used to, but that's for many reasons. Once I'm a little bit more busy now. Second, I have identified where I feel comfortable. That's another part where I feel like I'm getting the most of. So.
Yeah. So, what about you? Where do you bring in? Where do you try to bring in clients since you're just kind of starting?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot of networking, but then again, it's also a lot of connections within the community.
Mm-hmm.
So either with other social media managers that will send people our way because they're too busy, because we're huge on collaboration here, instead of being like, no, I'm
But
not
that's still
gonna-
networking.
That is still
it's not networking to the general public. It's networking to other people in your industry.
Mm-hmm. And then a lot of like connections with smaller businesses in the area. Like I know a bunch of people that work for super small startups, and I work for a startup, so we know each other through that or through something else. And just being like, hey, like I was looking at your social media and I can help you with that.
Right.
So it is a lot of just like little conversations like that, or like at my brother's birthday party, it was at a brewery, and I was chatting to people at a different startup, and I was just like sipping my beer, like, hey, I can help you out.
Right.
So it's kind of all over the place. It's all networking, but it's on much different
I think
scales.
that goes back to her point of, talking about what you're doing and what your goals are.
And
The more you talk about it, without really trying to like pitch it to someone, that they come out and they're like, oh, well, I know someone, or I might need help, or, let's have a bigger discussion about that. I find that all the time.
Yeah, and I've had times where I just, like, gave people a couple tips, because they're like, oh, you do social media, what would you suggest? And I just give it to them, and if they work, they're like, oh, what she said was actually legitimate, maybe I should consider her.
And that actually plays into my next question. So when you do find someone who's interested, like, how do you go about pitching to them or giving them a proposal? And I would say that, like, I typically do offer to sit down with someone for the first, I don't know, I usually schedule it for an hour and go and meet them for lunch or coffee or something. And it's not like we're going to pull out the computer and deep dive into all your stuff. But I've looked at it prior to going to the meeting, and then I give them a few tips or a few ideas. And honestly, I feel like if I give them just this little piece of information and that's enough for them to take it and run with it and be successful, then great. They probably weren't going to need me as a service anyway because they were perfectly capable. But maybe they get like you started out like being able to go to all these networking events, and then the busier you got, you couldn't. It's the same with social media. So I have clients that, like, maybe I gave them an idea and they ran with it and they were doing great for a while, but then they started getting really busy. So now they need someone else to help, and they come back to the person who gave them that idea.
Yeah.
So how do you pitch to new clients typically?
Before I forget an idea that I had, I think that's the nice thing about this, that you're helping others, and nobody is more happy than you that your client is very successful. Right? Not just because you can keep them as a client, but also because it kind of like we said earlier, is our like business presentation card or whatever. I've done a lot of free consulting. Especially when we talk about cultural issues or about cultural barriers and stuff like that. So that's basically something that I offer. Like the first meeting, like you said, is like a free consultation, and I come up and I love to share the numbers. I do have another extra point on my side that I know this community, the Latino community, which is that very well.
Right.
And I like to read a lot, so I read a lot about the marketing and the thing that I love and I'm so passionate about is that you can get all those numbers nationally very easy, but we hardly ever talk about Latinos in Kansas and particularly in Wichita. So that's kind of like a new thing that I'm kind of opening, and I love it.
Yeah.
Well, my next question I think is probably going to be more for Claudia than for you, mainly because she is the business owner and you are working for someone.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference. You weren't the one. So the question is, how would you suggest someone starting out figure out how to structure their rates? And that's why I say it's not as much for you because that was already decided for you.
Which is kind of nice, but it's also sometimes you're like, can we up that a little bit?
Right.
Well, I will say it's kind of like every business plan. You just call around, check how everybody's doing it, and then thinking of what's the extra value that I'm gonna put into the table. Like you say, there's other people and we are all very collaborative, but each of us, I think, brings something different to the table for different needs in the community. So I think that just realizing that and understanding what the value, the plus, the extra that I'm gonna give, and then kind of like scaling, like let's say, do we want to be competitive, but am I gonna, since I'm new and I'm taking, am I gonna go lower, or am I gonna go a little bit bigger because I'm bringing this extra that nobody else is doing. So it's just like being a little bit like in teamwork, and then after you kind of do a research, then come up with your own very honest price, whatever feels good for you and wherever you think it's gonna be fair for your client.
So the last question is, if you were just starting out, like you see this video and you go, I want to be a social media manager, what would you suggest your first steps be?
I will say, if they're young, like try to get an internship maybe in one of the companies locally, shadow somebody, look around and see who is making cool things and see if they will allow them to come and work part-time to learn from them, or just to have that feeling and see if that's really, because it sounds very fun, but it can be very stressful sometimes, and we have a big range of clients those clients who are always going to be really happy and cheering, and others that are always going to, can you try this? Not necessarily we're saying that they don't like us or they don't like the work we do, but they're a little bit, I think they already know what they have in their mind.
They have a vision.
Right, and then it's hard when somebody else is doing it for you. So just get a feeling of it, like go somewhere, ask them for an opportunity, or the other way will be like, you're probably going to have to start doing a lot for free, but I think that route is going to be a little bit longer, because then you're, like in my case, I'm already in a year and I'm just still right now figuring out some new apps. As if you go before and work for somebody else or intern with somebody else, that's going to be like a shortcut.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what your current situation is as to how you can start. Like if you have the luxury of trying to take on 1 or 2 clients while you still have your current full-time job. I have seen suggestions where people say, well, do work for a month to 3 months for free in exchange for a review. So, of course, I would basically take everything you do during that time and put it in your portfolio. And then I would I typically ask the person to review me on LinkedIn. And then I can, if I want to put that review like on my website or anywhere else, I can actually just take their profile picture from LinkedIn and their review and do it that way.
That's a very important thing, because a lot of times we do a lot of the work for free, especially if you're young and you want to get more experience. You manage your school's Facebook or your whatever Facebook fraternity Facebook page, or you manage your uncle's business Facebook friend, and they're not paying you, but you love it and you're doing it for them. I think that's very important to keep in mind, to keep them in your portfolio and make sure that they give you, it's part of your resume or...
Absolutely. What about you? First steps to get started?
I'll totally reiterate the fact, like, find a mentor or someone you know that's doing it. Go to networking events, find someone that's a social media manager and be like, can I sit down with you and have coffee? Or can I, like, text you questions? Or can I shadow you for a day? Like, having at least one person that you can, like, go to and see how they're doing it and ask them questions and kind of follow along, see if it's something you would want to do is so helpful. And it's also so nice to have mentors, because you get so discouraged on yourself sometimes. You're like, oh, I can't do this. And your mentor is going to be the person that's like, shut up, yes you can. So it's always nice to have someone there in your corner that you can learn from and who can motivate you, and just kind of be your person.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with me and answering all these questions. I am going to add links to both of their businesses wherever you are seeing this, the blog, YouTube, Facebook. The links will be to both of their businesses, and also be on the lookout for next week when we will go over tools and software that these two recommend.